Everyone. We're about to start a very interesting session in the conference room, a session on women in hospitality, a fireside chat between Dr. Lakshmi Toriwan and Ms. Shirin Batliwa. Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to you all. On behalf of the World of Hospitality, this is Tina Joy, an editor of the magazine and the publisher of the magazine. I invite now Dr. Lakshmi Toriwan. She's the author of a very interesting book, which she has also shared with me. I invite her on the dais for a fireside chat with Ms. Shirin Batliwala. Over to you, ladies.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And all the students who are seated here, thank you so much for being here on our first, it's a first offline session for us because IWH started a lot of work online. This is a dream come true for me because I'm sitting with someone who has probably shattered all glass ceilings. In fact, when we just came in, we met Vikram Kamath, he's seated right there, and he said, "What glass ceiling are you talking about? These are the ladies who never had any and they've shattered everything." Um, so this, event is very important from about two aspects of it. One, we started connecting during the lockdown and we had not met. But we know each other so well. I'm so happy to see so many of you here. So let's begin what we are here for, fireside chat. And when we were coming up on stage, ma'am said, "How I wish there was some fire." So that's how feisty she's been. Uh, my association with Miss Shirin Batliwala goes back to the very beginning of my career. And she was, sharing her experiences with us when I was just out of college. That time, we were just listening to all managers and we were not really very happy because morning till evening we're listening to so many general managers. But then when I look back, I feel those were some of the biggest lessons that we learned because no workplaces taught us that. Because what you learn from people's experiences, I think nothing else can ever match that. So let's get into a few questions that we have. Now, this was not supposed to be a question answer session, by the way. When I got an invite from World of Hospitality saying that they wanted us to host an event here, I spoke to ma'am and I said, "Ma'am, I would want you to address the ladies there." She said, "No, I can't talk." You said, "I'm a doer. I can do things, but I can't just talk." I said, ma'am, I'll have questions. So we do that. So she has been somebody who's always been a doer. She's been someone who's been, right there on the shop floor. And I have seen her exactly like this, even then. So energetic and touchwood. May God continue blessing you with good health and so. So, ma'am, I'm sure everybody wants to hear about your journey. In fact, her journey features in the book at number 2 in this. At number 1, of course, we have Miss Thangam Philip, who has been a teacher to all of us, and ma'am was fortunate to study under her. So, Ms. Batliwala, can you share a bit about your background and what led you to join hospitality?
So I grew up in different cities in India because my father was in the railways, and I was in Guwahati as a child, and then got transferred to Mumbai. So I came to Mumbai only in 1962, and at that time I finished my schooling over here. And at our time, school was 11 standards. There was nothing like SSC and HSC or anything. It was 11 years in school and 4 years in college. Now, my first choice was medicine actually. But I was very bad, very poor in advanced maths. And at that time, you didn't have the opportunity or the choice like you have just now of having physics, chemistry, biology if you want to do medicine, or physics, chemistry, maths if you want to do engineering. You had to do all the subjects for the first 2 years. So I couldn't go in for medicine, and I was wondering what to do. I thought maybe I'll do home science. And a very chance meeting with Miss Talati, who used to be our professor in our first year for cookery. Through her sister, I happened to meet her, and she told me, but why don't you come and join catering college? So I said, but even there they say maths is required. She said, no, 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 you come, I'll take you to Mr. Pacey Shaw, who was the vice principal. And luckily for me, that was the year the college was shifting to this current campus from the old campus at Bhavan's College in Andheri. So they increased the seats from 50 to 100, and they were actually searching for students. So that's how I got into college. And once I got in, I just loved the industry. I mean, I loved the studies, I loved what we were doing, and I loved the industry. So that's how I got into hotel management.
Wow, that's a chance meeting. And, you know,
It was very, very, very sort of, unplanned, but maybe it was just fate.
absolutely. I think, ma'am, the industry chooses you rather than you selecting, because I have been someone who got through a medical seat and did not pursue. So, so that's it just chooses you, and it just makes you, you. I mean, the students who are sitting here now and who don't want to make a career in hospitality, some of them think there's too much of work there. But then believe me, this has been one of the most fulfilling journeys. That if you listen to people who've been there that long, they would always have something very nice to share. And I don't think a lot of professions actually do that. So, ma'am, you selected the industry. It was a chance. Now, what challenges did you face? Being a girl and being into the industry, which was male-dominated at that time.
Uh, my first biggest challenge was to get into the Taj in food and beverage, because
Okay.
till I joined, no ladies were taken except in housekeeping. And I had
Okay.
told my mother when I went for the interview that if they offer housekeeping, I'm not going to accept. And it just so happened that I went again, and the Taj had decided to open up front office and food and beverage to ladies. And they asked me which area I'd like to work in. I said food and beverage. And we were just talking a little earlier about going for outdoor catering. So I had done several functions, gone for several functions at the Taj. That time they were all sit downs. So I was very lucky. I have served the Shah of Iran, the Aga Khan, several times. Aga Khan used to come almost every year. So the bosses sort of knew me because I used to go there often for waiting. So they said, okay, and that's how I joined the Taj. Now, my challenge, and not only me, but I think a few people who had joined before me, say maybe two batches before me, we were together in the department in banquets. And for all of us, our challenge was not whether you were a lady or a man. Our challenge was working or being accepted by the old guard that was there. Because till then, most of the people were there who were very experienced but totally uneducated. And for them to accept youngsters coming out from catering college was our challenge. So because of that, all of us who were there, maybe 10, 15 of us, we bonded very well because we were facing like a common enemy. And we had to prove to them that we can still do. I mean, there were times I know, I will never forget that. There was a party for Mr. Tata. Mr. J.R.D. Tata used to entertain almost every week over there. And I made a gimlet, which is just a gin and lime cordial for him. And here comes this waiter, snatches the glass from my hands and throws it away, saying, "Idhar se niklo, college wala aaya hai. Tumko kya pata kaise banane ka?" And you can't say anything. You're in the banquet hall. There are guests over there. You just have to keep quiet and move out and let him do what he has to do. So our biggest challenge was being able to work with them and eventually within a few months or so, get them to accept you as a colleague and as somebody who's senior to them.
Perfect, ma'am. I actually come from somewhere there. Again, I started my career in housekeeping. So you see two extreme sides again. Um, Having started my career at Taj, I know what ma'am is talking about. I'm sure she faced a much tougher situation because during my time, they were 5th standard or 8th standard pass. So ma'am says at that time they were not educated. So you can see there was a whole difference, but you were tested. But one, if they saw that sincerity in you, they would be your biggest teachers and biggest mentors. I think I have learned so much from bellboys to security guards to room attendants that no manager could ever teach. So some of those important lessons, especially for students, it will come from these people, but you need to win over them, and that will come only with your sincerity. So, ma'am, you moved into the Taj, you went into the F&B. I'm sure there were some mentors. So, anybody in particular you would like to name and the lessons that you learned from them?
See, there were many of them. There's one thing which even today, I feel very sad, which we have lost is in Taj, we had a system, I put it as Sutradhar,
Okay.
where your seniors would tell you incidents and stories and events that had happened and how things were done. So you sort of kept listening. It's like a chat, like a fireside chat, but you had a whole group of people and everyone would tell you something and teach you. So there were many people like that. But one of my biggest mentors and who helped me a lot also was my late friend, Mr. Subir Bhaumik, who was a tremendous teacher, both hands-on as well as otherwise. And another person from whom I learned by looking at, two people. One was Mr. Kerka, who was our chairman, but it was just the little things that he would do which, if you paid attention, you understood what he was looking at, what he wanted, and to develop that eye for detail and all came a lot from him. And as I mentioned to you that Mr. Tata was very frequent over there. See, that time Air India didn't have this big Air India building. They were in that New India Assurance building at Fountain. And every 3 months they had their board meeting in the Taj. So Mr. Tata was chairman of Taj. And my good friends, all the guys in the banquets would say, "Tu aage ja, Tata sahib ladki pe kabhi chillayenge nahi. So if something goes wrong, they won't shout at you." And that's how I started interacting very, very closely with him. His eye for perfection was so great, I cannot tell you. To give you a story, Mr. Tata would come, he was half French. He studied in France. So his French, he and his sister used to converse in French, not in English or any other language. So his French was perfect. And we had the Rendezvous upstairs at that time, which was a French restaurant, and the menus were all in French. And we would take the menu to the Alliance Francaise professors and ask them to correct. Still, he would find a mistake. So one day he told me, now the next time you change your menu, you phone my office and you come and show it to me in the office. So imagine the chairman of the Tatas actually sitting and going through a menu in French to make corrections and check if it was okay. So my interactions with him were a lot, and just seeing how he worked, seeing how he behaved, it was a tremendous learning for me.
Wow, that's. While ma'am was talking about Mr. Tata and the perfection, I work with the Park Hotels, and Miss Priya Paul is just that. You know, she has to look at the menu, she has to taste everything that is there, and also, she remembers every artifact that is there in the guest room. That's the kind of involvement, when you see people, those are the kind of professionals you learn from. So, ma'am, what key qualities do you believe are necessary or needed in a leader?
See, there are many qualities that a leader should have. One, I believe, is that you must be true to yourself. Don't pretend to be somebody you aren't, because eventually people see through that. So, if you are and you have certain principles, you stand by those principles and you be true to who you are. A leader must always have curiosity. Not that I'm now at the top, so I don't need to learn anything. You can learn every day, and you can learn from all levels of people. You don't learn only from your seniors, like Lakshmi mentioned, you learn from everyone. I'll give you one small example, if I may take a minute.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
In 2002, I think, Sri Vajpayee as Prime Minister decided that he would take a Christmas holiday in Kumarakam. And the Taj has a very small resort. They took the whole resort, some 30 rooms, 3-4 houseboats. And there were a lot of mosquitoes. So they wanted us to put a lot of mosquito coils all around. Now, I said, and I was there to look after that entire thing. So every mosquito coil packet has one of those little things. I said, now how are we going to use? So one of the local waiters said, don't worry, I'll show you how we do it. So he went to the kitchen, he got potatoes, big slices of potatoes like this, roundel, thick. He put in a mattress in the center, and he supported the coil on that. And he went round putting it all over. And I was just shocked. I said, wow, what innovation. So you can learn from everyone. And it's not that, but you have to keep updating yourself also. Today it's so easy because you have the net and you can keep reading whatever you want. In our times, there was nothing. You had to depend on some books if someone got you, or some foreign magazine. A leader also needs to be analytical, especially in today's day of competition and all. You need to be analytical, analyze situations, analyze what is happening. Only then would you be able to take things forward. You need to be able to adapt, because situations change very quickly. Like COVID came, who knew what would happen? But how quickly hotels and all managed to adapt, or many industries managed to adapt. Who had ever heard of working from home? But in COVID, everyone managed, except front-facing industries, but otherwise everyone could work from home. So a leader has to be able to adapt to situations and then show the path to his or her juniors. Of course, a leader has to have a vision. It may be a vision that may be your vision, it may be the vision of the company at a much higher level, but you still need to be able to have a vision of how to take that forward. To me, empathy is a very big thing. Now, empathy is, of course, very different from sympathy. Empathy is when you put yourself in the place of the others. And you understand whether it's your employee, it's a guest, what they are going through. and therefore you are able to respond much better to them. As a leader, your communication skills must be good because you have to be able to communicate to the people what you want them to do. Your communication must be clear and concise so that there is no ambiguity left when they have to do something. Uh, Decision making, eventually the buck stops with you. I think you will know very well. So you have to be able to take a decision. You can't leave it on someone else, or you can't say, oh, that person will take care of that. And time management is also important because a leader has many, many things to do. So time management is important. And once you come to know your people, empower them to do many things. Because once you empower your people, then they would be very happy to take on more responsibilities.
That's so many leadership lessons coming from you, and she's lived all of them. Uh, Ma'am, leaders, I mean, as you say, the buck stops at you. But then as a leader, you also have to take some tough decisions. So something comes to your mind where you had to take a very tough stance?
Uh, Actually, it's not just me, but we all had to take at one stage a very tough stance. Was in 1983, I think it was the first time in the Taj when the staff went on strike. And it was a bad day because the staff, whatever they tried to do, the staff all just rushed and sat in the lobby. Whether they wanted to or not, they were pushed there. And the Taj never had an external union. Even today, it's an internal union. But at that time, to take a call, it's not again my call, but the management took a call that we will not close the hotel.
Yes.
And the strength of a chain is that you can get people from other places. So overnight they came. But all the managers, all of us, we were making rooms, we were cleaning, we were doing service. So that was one very difficult time.
And I've heard this from almost every, manager I've worked and people I've worked. Deepal is here. She was there with me at Taj. We all have heard these stories, isn't it? So, what Taj as an organization taught us was just roll up your sleeves and you work. Nobody's, even if you're a manager, you are a worker in the organization, and they would always lead by example. Here, I would like to, ma'am also mentioned about Mr. Subir Bhomik. I remember I was interning at the hotel. I was a industrial trainee, and I was standing somewhere in the lobby. There was a small cigarette butt. He came, he picked that up, he looked at me and he threw it. I felt so ashamed because I did not even notice that. And he was the general manager of the hotel. So that's the kind of, qualities that a leader needs to have. And ma'am very well highlighted that. So ma'am, one strategy, as you said, people came from other places and they started working. So one, mantra that you can share with us that helps motivate people?
See, when they see that you are willing to do things yourself also, and not just stand aside when they are working for 10 hours, 12 hours, and you just sit and not do anything. When they see that you're part of the team or you're actually leading the team, and wherever required, you will pitch in, I think that is a great thing for them.
So over the
Sorry,
years,
if I may also add,
yes, please.
not just for motivating, but again, going by Mr. Tata, there was one principle, one saying of his which touched me very close to my heart. And I even got him to write it for me in his own handwriting, which I still have. It was always framed and kept on my table. That to be a leader, you must lead people with affection. And to me, that was so true, that you can be strict, you can, naturally, you have to maintain discipline, you have to enforce discipline, but you also can do that lovingly.
What a wonderful message. And again, I would say you always lived by that. Ma'am spoke about COVID, how you lead by example. IWH had an event and we had invited her as a speaker. And she was quarantined at a hotel. So she said, I'm actually, I've tested positive, I'm here, but nothing is wrong with me. Only some stomach, some issues. And then she did the entire session. I mean, that was one moment, ma'am, when my respect for you must have gone so many notches higher. Um, so that's how we lead by example. Ma'am, you've seen the industry change through, decades. So what are some of the things that you notice have been big changes, which probably are, have changed for better or for worse? Anything that you would like to highlight?
Well, technology is one thing that has come in the past, say maybe 15, 20 years or even before that. Uh, Before that, there was nothing. Everything was manual. Those who are familiar with the industry, everything like front office also, we had the Whitney system, the racks, 7 copies of the slips were made. Our telephone exchange for the Taj for 300 rooms stretched from here to there. There were like at any given time 10 telephone operators operating the lines. Today you have 2 operators with a little console like that. All your data now is available on your computer. But the sad part is that I think people now forget to think. So they're so dependent on the computer. We used to have people in front office who knew the history, the name, recognition, and history of at least 200 to 300 regular guests. And one of them, if I may, some of you may know her, a lady called Maya Hariharan, who was our guest relations officer. When she left the Taj, she took a VRS and then she was taken by Jet Airways. And she was in front in Jet Airways also. And the airport also, she'd say, "Hi, Mr. Kamath, come here. Don't worry, I'll take care of you." And like everyone is looking, and Mr. Kamath feels great because amongst some 5,000 people at the airport, Maya has called him by name. So today, no one remembers that because everyone's so dependent on the computer and the history. That is, I think, one thing that we have lost to a great extent. But of course, technology has its advantages also. Information is so easily available for anyone who wants to find something or to learn something. Things are very easy now as compared to the time when we started.
That's truly wonderful. I think, the personalized touch, and that is something we need to continue. We're so much dependent on technology. I don't think any one of us remembers more than 3, 4 phone numbers today.
Yeah.
But we've come from a time when all that was, and we would remember so many of our guests apart from so many numbers. So we've come to almost the final phase of our discussion. There's no fire, but we've had a lot of sparks flying in. Ma'am, what advice would you give to the young professionals, who want to build their career in the hospitality industry?
My first thing is that, see, you must love the industry. You must love working with people because on both sides you have people. There are no machines, there's no major equipment. It's not like manufacturing. So on the one side, your guests are there who are your clients. On the other side, we are all in this industry very people dependent. So you must enjoy working with people. If you don't enjoy working with people, it's not going to be of any use. You have to remember that the guest is always right. Our boss, Mr. Kerkar, used to tell us, first thing you say, if any problem is there, first you must learn to say, "I'm sorry." And he said, if you can't do that, you have no place in this industry. He told one of my colleagues, every morning stand in front of a mirror and say, "I'm sorry" 100 times. Look in the mirror and say, "I'm sorry." So you have to realize that, when you say sorry, you don't become small, but you diffuse at least 60% of the problem that is there. And then you let the person talk. Then the industry is no doubt tough, but it's extremely fulfilling. So do try. Don't give up on the smallest excuse or the smallest thing happens, so you give up. Don't do that. Keep persevering. I'm sure you will be able to make a success in the industry.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such insightful, I should say, words of wisdom from you. I would have loved it if this was continuing on and on, but then we also are pressed for time. Thank you so much, and it's wonderful listening to you. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, ladies, for the wonderful chat that we have had. May we have more such conversations. On behalf of World of Hospitality, we would like to felicitate you. I request any of my colleagues here. Nobody is here. Okay, fine. I'll do the honors myself, from one lady to two other ladies. So wait, we have another continuing conversation. Very important panel discussion coming up, again, on women empowerment in the hospitality industry. So from glass ceilings to glass slippers, mentorship matters. I would like to invite on the dais our esteemed panelists, Ms. Ruchita Verma. Ruchita Verma? She has not come, okay. Sonia Sharma. Ms. Sonia Sharma. Can we have those claps, please? Thank you. You can make up your way up to chairs. Ms. Vidhi Vikram. Ms. Maitri Lowa Lekar. And Ms. Debrati Roy. And last but not least, we have our moderator, Ms. Labana Penkar. I know her from an event I met last time, and she is really going to give them a tough time, panelists. So be prepared, and over to you, ladies.
I'm going to come here later. Let me just kind of finish the introductions and I'll join up. Good afternoon, everybody. And I must say a big thank you. To Lakshmi and Shireen ma'am, I think you have almost set the stage for what's going to come up now. So thank you once again. It kind of simplified my life and my job here as a facilitator of a very, very intriguing panel discussion. By the way, my name is Labana. I am a human resource strategist, L&D architect. I'm responsible for people and culture, and overall organization performance, which is aligned to the numbers and the revenues, spanning a career of about 25 plus years, which is almost like a quarter of a century now. I worked across multiple industries, hospitality being the most prime and the most premium, I would say. Ex-Marriott, ex-Accor, ex-Starwood, responsible for launching brand Westin and brand Accor in India. Very, very honored, very, very privileged to actually host a very, very august panel here. And before I dive into the topic today, because the topic will need some kind of a different introduction, but before I dive into the topic, I'm going to introduce you to an amazing panel. I'm also saying that because this is a very diverse panel, and we ensured that there is diversity in terms of thoughts and perceptions. The first person that I have here, okay, in no order actually, I'm just going randomly. So let's give a round of applause to Dr. Vidhi Kamath, Group Director of the WITS Kamath Group, which spans the entire spectrum of hospitality business, right from hotels to restaurants, club lounges, and training institutes. The group comprises of 23 hotels under brand WITS, 50-plus restaurants under brand Vittal Kamath and Kamath's Legacy, and also an institute for hospitality training. Vidhi herself, by the way, is a hotelier by profession. She joined the hotel industry as a management trainee. So you have somebody who's climbed up the rungs and actually knows the nitty-gritties of the hospitality business. Welcome, welcome. Let's introduce you to Ms. Sonia Sharma, Director of Human Resources at the Hilton Mumbai International Airport. Sonia's been in the hotel industry for the last 14 years in India and overseas. She's a certified academic trainer for Accor, a POSH certified trainer, and has been awarded twice, okay? Let's hear it for her, by the World HRD Congress as the HR professional. Congratulations, well done. Absolute pleasure to introduce you to Ms. Debrati Roy, a luxury hotelier turned executive presence and personal branding coach for leaders. She has been in L&D for the past 7 years, working with clients like Novotel, Samsonite, Tanishq, Bajaj, and the ITC Limited. She's also a visiting faculty at the SP Jain Global Management Institute and a certified stylist from NIFT. Welcome, Debrati. And finally, we have the lovely Miss Maitri Lavlekar, Senior Lecturer at the IHM Mumbai since 1995. She's completed her post-diploma course in hotel administration from IHM, and then she worked at the Kamath's Plaza, which is now the Orchid Ecotel, for a year in HR and training. She has been a part of various workshops and training programs under the umbrella of NCHM, both as a resource person as well as a participant. So that's the August panel and the knowledgeable panel that you have here, which is going to deep dive into a very pressing issue for the day today. And why do I say that? 2025 whispers that there are going to be 5 parameters in HR which is actually going to radicalize with a strong momentum the entire year in terms of business. And do you know what is the number 1 parameter that has been defined? It is called the women equity effect. What does women equity really mean? It means absolute fairness. It's not about feminism. It means absolute fairness, absolute justice in terms of equal opportunities to work shoulder to shoulder with the men in capacity of their education qualification as well as their skills and competence. Now, if the women's equity factor is going to be more important, I want to set the stage by taking a quick dip check, all right? I see a lot of youngsters here, which is wonderful because y'all are the future of this amazing hospitality universe, okay? But at the same time, I also see a lot of women professionals, and I'm very, very happy to see some gentlemen here, all right? Remember, I talked about equality, I didn't talk about feminism, so it's great to have you all here, okay? That goes without saying. I qualified you under that bucket, so it's okay. I have a quick question for y'all. How many of y'all report into female bosses? By the way, people seated here can also put your hands up. Put your hands up, please. Female bosses? Okay, wonderful. You're your own boss. I'm great. Entrepreneurs are phenomenal, okay? That's wonderful. I've seen like about 4 to 5 hands go up in this hall. We are anywhere around 100, 150 at present. Okay, do I have to tell you the percentage, what it comes to? Okay, and I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised with the dip check, okay? Because the end of 24 very clearly stated that the hospitality industry, which comprises of hotels, restaurants, travel, tourism, and the ancillary and the allied businesses, have 54% of women working for them. 54. Should we clap? Of course we should clap, okay? We've crossed the 50% mark. All right. Now I'll tell you a very disturbing fact. Only 8% of this population falls under the senior leadership. Do we need to be happy about it? We need to be concerned about it. All right? And why are we saying that? Because India today has the highest contributor of the GDP is by the hospitality industry, and that's 10%. By ostracizing the female workforce, we are denying the country the opportunity to escalate this GDP. We have a moral responsibility, and with that, I'm going to set the stage and I'm going to put up some questions for you. Let me start off by asking you, what are your views? And we want unfiltered views, by the way, okay? This is a very unusual group discussion. One may have to be shared, possibly. Okay, all right, great. Okay, I want an unfiltered view on what are your views and perspectives on women, equity, and opportunity for women in hospitality. Are you happy with it? Are you not happy with it? Open to it. Come on. Feel free. It's a group discussion, and we can talk.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vidhi Kamath, and the question that she has mentioned, Ms. Lebna, is I feel it's very personal, and a person may consider it as an opportunity or as a barrier as well, because I feel equity comes with your own mindset. If you want to go and get it among whatever you want to achieve, you can go and get. But there are many restrictions for women, because along with professional life, they also have a personal life which they need to balance, and that cannot be done without having a good support back home. So if you see that there are many women who have achieved a lot in this room, and they have been breaking the barriers not in today's age, but right from when Ms. Savitribai Phule opened the gates for education for women. So equity in hospitality, I feel we have the opportunity and we can achieve it as long as we are ready to give our 100% to it. But sometimes it also happens that maybe we cannot achieve what we want because of certain restrictions or certain responsibilities back home, but that doesn't stop you from achieving it later in life. You can always achieve it. Like if you see, Ms. Lakshmi ma'am is a live example here, who is here, she has two wonderful kids who she's taken care while her husband has been traveling. She has worked not only in the industry, but she's also set this platform for Indian women in hospitality, along with doing her career, managing a house, and plus she's authored some amazing books. So I feel everybody gets an equal opportunity. It is up to us how we are going to make use of the opportunity, and we also need to understand what are our strengths, and we need to excel in that particular area. It shouldn't be that, there are certain areas like we see sales is dominated by females, or if you see housekeeping at one point was dominated by females because that was a sector meant for the females. But today it's no more like that. We see wonderful chefs progressing in the F&B sector. We have a lot of female entrepreneurs setting up nightclubs, which was earlier not meant for females, so because it required to be there up late night. But today they have utilized their opportunities with whatever support they've got. So I feel that there's an equal opportunity, and the equity stake is equal for men and women, but it is up to them how they can utilize it.
Very heartening.
Thank
very,
you.
very heartening to listen to these views. Okay. Having said that, and yes, we have made a lot of progress, but the glass ceiling metaphor, okay, where does this come from? You see, the title of this debate is about the glass ceiling. Where does this metaphor come from? From a vantage point, okay, in the corporate ladder. When a woman looks up, there seems to be an invisible barrier, almost like a glass. She can see up a position there. She has the necessary qualification, she has the skill, she has the competence. But there is an invisible force that keeps her from climbing up that corporate ladder. It just restricts her. And that came to be called the glass ceiling. There are a few women who had the audacity to shatter the glass ceiling, but unfortunately, as we said, the number is only 8% in senior leadership. So, I have a question to the panel here. Is the glass ceiling a reality or is it a myth? What are your views? What are your beliefs? Does it exist? And tell us your experience.
I think it depends from person to person, right? You, as a woman, are you strong enough to shatter that glass ceiling which is there in front of you, or you are not, right? You have to take your decisions, you have to build your career. Sometimes, yes, you have to come across as a very, very strong individual so that you can show that okay, what you are there for, or what you are as an individual bringing to the table. I'll share my example in my leadership team. I'm the only woman. Okay, and I have never felt like that because whenever I have made my point, I have made sense to that point. I don't barge in anything which is not making sense, right? So I do my homework first. So yes, whenever we see that there is a forum and we have to say something, we should know what we are talking about. Because when you know what you are talking about, then people will listen to you. And there is no gender, biasness comes in. When you make sense, whether you are a man or a woman, people will listen to you. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Somebody else wants to express? Yeah, please go ahead.
So I think glass ceiling exists first in us. That's the first glass ceiling that we have. And that's what we need to break first. It's because many a times we don't believe we deserve that. So if we are coming in from that space that we don't believe, we don't deserve it, how do we cross that? I mean, of course, biases are there. I mean, and that's across the board, right? It's not just to do with hospitality industry. It's across the board, everywhere. It is there in terms of biases related to women, whether it's our domestic things that we do additionally as compared to men. However, I think we need to break that first, and when we need to believe that yes, we can. In my personal life and professional life, whenever I have broken that bit, I have progressed, and wherever I haven't, I have been stagnant. So I think that's the first glass ceiling we need to think of breaking so that we can progress as a woman.
So is that an extra work for the woman as compared to a man?
I wouldn't say no, because we are in a society when it comes to, when we have to balance the entire household bit, again, we need to do that bit of delegation as well. So if I had to progress, because I have a son who's a teenager now, he's into sports as a career. So if I have to have his career going and my career going and a family which is a stable family, so I need that support system. So I have to create that support system. It wouldn't just come to me. So when we create these support systems, we seek help from our own family, our colleagues, our friends, our bosses. We speak about it. Many a times we want to just create that rosy picture that, everything is okay, everything is fine, I'm fine, because that's what we keep telling ourselves. Right, and because I coach a lot of women, I see that happening all the time, especially when you are, in the middle management to moving to that bigger role. So I see that fear. And even if they've got the role, they're struggling because they want to do everything perfect. And that perfection does not exist. You have to take help.
So I'm trying to gauge the subtle nuances of language where I heard the three women speaking. And I realized that, yes, it starts with us. There are barriers, and there will always be. There will be prejudices. We come from a country which psychologically, culturally, has some inbuilt misconceptions, prejudices, okay? But shattering it starts from us. Wonderful, but that's additional work. Let's admit, which means...
Additional work. Agreed.
It's additional work, which means it's an extra ladder to climb up the corporate rung. What we are doing today is we are just training you because we are not only going to identify the challenges, but we are also going to identify some solutions and resolutions as to how we can really make it simpler together, all right? So, one is, of course, yes, please, Maitri.
I just want to add a point here. See, we so many times we assume, okay, with Indian culture, we feel कि मेरी सास है तो ना उनको ये पसंद नहीं आएगा. We just assume that she won't like it. It could be that if you ask her, she may support you wholeheartedly. So I completely agree with Debarati when she says that we need to, break that thing at our end first. And that includes everyone. That includes not just the family, but also in workplaces. I'm sure if we start sharing, our concerns with our colleagues or if possible with our bosses, I'm sure there would be support. Because it must have started some time back, but now we have come a long way. And I see many youngsters taking up responsibilities at home. They cook if the wife or their partners are not around, and they are doing it willingly. It's not forcefully.
So, Maitri, while you are speaking and you're talking about the challenges, let's hear it from everybody, okay? What are the kind of challenges that women actually face at work? I'm sure you all are managing huge teams, you have cross-functional teams, and you do interact with everybody and you lend a ear. So what are the kind of challenges? They could be innate psychological challenges, they could be cultural challenges, or they could actually be an organizational level challenge. So tell me.
Yeah, I feel many of the older generation men have a perception towards females कि ये नहीं कर पाएगी. तो
They don't take you seriously.
and
A lot
and,
of women say that, by the way. Surveys have revealed, okay, that men in professional life don't take women seriously. They are only taken seriously at home. All right?
they are the bosses at home.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So,
I feel that कमज़ोर समझते हैं, especially when it comes to taking tough decisions, like that we don't have that killer instinct sometimes. And we need to show it to them couple of times whenever required that, yes, we have that additional, I won't say a burden, but a gift of being the motherly, aspect of our thinking. Not the heart, but not dil se nahi, lekin dimag se bhi we plan, we have a balance.
it's a very nurturing attitude.
Correct. And but if required, we'll use our weapons. If they know that, they'll start taking us seriously, I believe.
Okay? Any other challenge?
So one point I wanted to add here is in terms of we are bosses at home. So now the point is why should we be the boss at home? Because what happens is when you are in a leadership position and you're a boss, so that's a lot. And then if you also choose to be the boss at home, then again it's double, right? So so when it comes to, of course, when you are in a professional level, you've already taken that assignment, you're a boss. At home, don't have to be the boss and don't have to be everywhere. You have to delegate, right? You have
Still
to give.
about equality.
Exactly, you have to let it be. And if things are, there's a little bit of mess here and there once in a while, it's okay. And if the perfect meal is not getting, many times we are not okay with things not happening, and we choose to be the boss everywhere. So
And
then,
the perfection syndrome.
Exactly,
Wow,
and
that's
yeah,
disastrous. There's
so
nothing called
that's-
perfection,
takes
guys.
us
Just
back.
get into the mode and do things. Simple.
right. So that's something which takes us back many a times with women, I believe.
There was one interesting comment that came from here where you mentioned that it's about us. We do not want to take additional responsibilities. There is also a research, okay, when men and women were asked who wanted to be the general manager and who wanted to be a CEO, it was only 30% of the women who said that they wanted to be the CEO or the general manager. 70% of the men put up their hands, irrespective of whether they had the talent or the capability. So it's the glass ceiling and the barrier remains within us. Okay? I absolutely acknowledge and I'm aligned to that point. True. Is there any other challenge? Okay? India has still not gone out of that woman at home mode, right? Unfortunately. और वो second shift वाला mode तो अभी भी खत्म नहीं हुआ है. हम ऑफिस में काम करते हैं, फिर को हमको तो घर जाके भी काम करना पड़ता है. Our partner can sit in front of the television to watch Netflix, but unfortunately we cannot because our second shift starts there. What do you do about it? करें क्या? Solutions for the new generation?
So I have very different experiences because I have been on both sides of the boat, on being an employee at one point and being a boss, like owner at one point. So when I was working in the industry, that time I used to be in the hotel full time because I had nothing to do. Back once I go back to my house and no family here, friends all would be at shift. So my boss would always tell me, क्या करते रहती है पूरा दिन इधर ही बैठी रहते कुछ पर्सनल लाइफ आई सेड दिस इज माय लाइफ नाउ एंड आई यूज्ड टू वर्क डे एंड नाइट आई हैड never checked my watch before going home. I used to, when my boss would leave, she used to stay in the hotel only, so I used to leave after that because I used to get her company. She used to enjoy, and end of the day we used to unwind and discuss what we did at work, what happened, what went right, what went wrong, what we could have done better, and we used to have a cup of tea and we used to end our day like that. But now, when I'm married and when we stay in a nuclear family, I have two wonderful kids. But today, when I have to plan my day, I always have to see कि my priorities have changed. Earlier, my work was my priority. Now, along with my work, my family also is my priority. Because being in a nuclear setup, it's very difficult to rely on somebody to take care of your house when in your absence. So all you have to rely is on getting some wonderful helps to take care in your absence and to be your family. But
So, Vidhi, does that take you away from the boys' club in office?
no, not at all. Because, like Devriti mentioned, it's up to us how you plan and how you organize yourself, your professional. At times when I have to travel and something important is there for my kids, my husband takes that role for me. You know, he sits
Very
at home
fortunate. Wonderful.
and
Great.
he takes care of the kids. He says, you don't worry, be it my work or be it just a girls' night out. He says, you go, you enjoy. And at times when he's traveling extensively, I put my work schedules. I line up my work schedules in such a way that my kids are also taken care, and both my houses, that's my work house, my office, or my house, both are taken care. And we have so many wonderful women in our office. Let me tell you, in my head office itself, 4 HODs who are women and who are handling their professional as well as personal life very well. And you cannot say that everybody comes from a similar background. And because everybody I know has a different responsibility back home. Some, they don't only have the married life responsibilities because everybody is not married. Some have somebody's husband is supporting, so she's here. Somebody has her siblings are supporting. She's not married and she has responsibility of her parents, but
So
she
in
wants to be the
fact,
best.
This is beyond the personal, and this talks a lot about the organization culture.
Yeah.
Because a lot of organizations have something called the bro code, okay, where you have the boys' gang, and all major decisions are made after 7 o'clock. All right? And I'm talking about business decisions, okay? I have been privy to a lot of corporate structures because I work across industry, and I had to put a deliberate halt to this culture, saying all decisions and all emails, professional emails, will only go out until 8 o'clock in the evening. Nothing beyond that, irrespective of the man or the woman, period. Okay? So, yeah, I mean, certain things are all cultures, right? I have an interesting question for you because we have. Wonderful. Maitri is giving us a solution to this. Tell us, Maitri.
Yeah, simple. I think just sensitize people around you at home. Those who think, and first, सबसे पहले तो stop playing the victim card. You've decided to work. You've chosen an industry. You've decided that I want to do this. I am happy in this. Please I mean, stop playing that victim card कि अरे मुझे ही सब करना पड़ता है, मुझे ही सब करना पड़ता है. Don't do it. Simple. Choose a a profession with flexible work hours where you can, if family is important to you, please, it's nothing wrong. And everyone has, even men should have equal importance to work as well as family. So choose a job. But if you enjoy doing what you are doing, and if you feel that the family is not supporting, just peacefully sensitize them. And with thanks to COVID, we have sudden importance and awareness about mental health. And I'm sure everyone is open to this, and everyone will listen to you. Maybe it will take time for them to, actually put it in practice.
But important to speak.
Yes, tell them that this is my work hour, and the best thing is also, I was very touched by this. If you have a holiday, agar Sunday ko kaam nahi karna hai, morning, don't take up the responsibility of making breakfast of idli and dosha, where you really need to, slog, if I'm allowed to use that word, stand in front of the gas, and when everyone else is sleeping, you tell them, tomorrow is my holiday and I'm not waking up till 11. Just do whatever you want. Have your breakfast. Go ahead. If you wish, you may bring some bread and butter and tell them, just go ahead and do whatever.
Women need to set the boundaries.
Yes,
That's
boundaries,
very
and make priorities. Just
Correct.
put yourself first.
Absolutely.
Like today, I need to chill.
Yeah.
I will do it. Yes, someone else needs to do something. Please find a way. And maybe if you feel that you need to be a part of their day or start of the day, then you make your way and take a holiday some other day when it doesn't disturb anybody. It's simple, very simple.
Sonia's been quiet, but Sonia, I have a question for you because you belong to the executive committee of the hotel. I worked for that hotel, so I exactly know. Yeah? All right. So, Sonia, is there a different expectation out of a man and a woman in terms of leadership styles?
Yeah, it's a
I
googly
got
question.
them thinking.
It's a googly question which has come to me. Of course, yes. And I think so. It's not in our hotel, but it's everywhere, right? Yes, because from women, and there also I'll put up. There are two type of cases there. One, woman who has a family, and one, a woman who is single. And there are different expectations from those roles also, because and this is what, I don't know, I should say or not, this is what I have faced in my previous careers. So if you are with a family, you will get support. Okay, fine, you want to get home little early, you can go. If you're single, ghar jaake kya karogi? Right? Sorry, we also have a life. So, there is, and from leadership point of view, yes, women come across as a very much, tender human being, I will say. Yes, we are very, very strong, but we are, sometimes we take some decisions emotionally. Whereas our male leaders, they go just that, okay, fine, this needs to be done like this, so yes, like this. But as a woman, what I see that we put it in a very polite way. We put it in a very, very, proper way, which will not hamper others' emotions, and we always keep this thing in mind. We
Yes,
don't,
because traditionally,
Yeah.
brazenness, okay, aggressiveness is associated and documented with leadership qualities.
Correct.
All right? Working with emotions, nurturing, coaching is not called leadership, right? And that's essentially a natural woman leadership style.
That is
Right.
why there are a lot of leaders who are in human resources, because that is the base of human resources, right? Because and now if I look at sometimes my leaders, when they can't take a decision, they come to me. Okay, fine, there is a tough person we have to handle, so we will be bringing that individual to you, because your handling of a person in a different way might resolve the entire issue. And they have seen that happening. However, so that is why we say that, okay, there should be, equality in the leadership team as well, because you will have both sides working together and putting things in a place, right? And that is very, very important for a successful organization.
It's very challenging because there are paradoxical dichotomies that exist. Women leaders are expected to be assertive, but they cannot be macho at work. Women leaders are supposed to take responsibility, accountability, but they are supposed to be obedient. Bhai, dono ek saath nahi ho sakta. All right? And that is something we need to sensitize across the organization, that a leadership style has certain traits and qualities that run across gender. It doesn't matter whether men are from Mars or women are from Venus. All right? Leadership has no gender. All right? So I think that is something that we need to sensitize. Tell us, what is your organization doing to bridge this gender diversity gap? Are there initiatives? Are there conscious initiatives that are being taken?
In our organization, we hire people purely based on the merits, not on how soft or how aggressive they are. If the person fits into the role and has the right potential, right qualities to fit into their shoes, they are given the opportunity. No more we follow that, a particular department has to be headed by a male or a female. It's purely based on the merits and how willing that person is to take up that responsibility and deliver to the best.
All right. Since you talked about merit, there is also a research which says that in hospitality, specific skills, and when I'm talking about specific skills like culinary and engineering, you only have 5% of the population which belongs here. Are we saying women are incapable of taking up these roles?
See, I will not say women are incapable, but to the young generation, I will say only one thing. You need to be very, very strong when you are coming to hospitality, because it's not an easy industry. It looks very fancy, very beautiful from front, but the hard work which goes behind, it's a lot. So if you think that, yes, you are there for that hard work, yes, you are at the right platform. Ladies who are sitting here, we have also done a lot of hard work to reach at this place. So we have not got it just with the magic. So there's a lot of things which we have to put at. You have to be mentally very, very strong. That is, I have to do this. Now, whatever hurdles comes into my life, I have to cross those hurdles. Again, it starts with us.
I'm going to put everybody in a spot for a rapid fire, okay? Because we are going to wind up with some very, very valuable advice for you all. But team, this is a rapid fire, okay? You are going to tell the new generation your one trick that you have actually implemented to shatter the glass ceiling and reach to this position that you've come to. Come on, it's a rapid fire. One trick.
Put yourself first. Prioritize you as a human, someone who has all the potentials to reach wherever we want, I want, and you're there. That's it.
Okay, all right. Go on, Debrati.
So for me, it's always been self-belief. I've believed that I will be able to do something. I mean, not that I have been able to be successful taking every challenge. That's all right. But any challenge which has come to me, I've always believed that I will be able to face it head on. So that belief has always helped me to progress in my life. And that's, I think, which is very important.
I think you should have a positive mental attitude, because with the positive mental attitude, every barrier can be seen as opportunity, and that's how you can progress and grow wherever you want in life.
Empathize with yourself first before you empathize with others, because self-love is always the first. Thank you.
This is so amazing. I am just going to add one more point to this, and this is a collective responsibility for all the senior leadership sitting here to create an amazing future to all these sparkling, shining eyes that you see here who come with so many dreams. You are a part of an amazing industry called hospitality. It's an industry which is glamorous, it is an industry which is fast growing. Behind the scene, there is a lot of grit and there's a lot of determination that you will need. Do not give up. The journey uphill, and this doesn't stand for hospitality, this is across industries. The journey uphill is difficult, but it is not impossible. However, I have to tell you, we are just talking about a glass ceiling. Don't forget, women are made of stronger metal. Kick it and shatter it. The world will be at your feet. Thank you so much, everybody. This has been a wonderful discussion. A big thank you to all the panelists. And Lakshmi, great opportunity putting the topic across to the new generation and everybody. Gentlemen, we love you for being so wonderful and supporting us. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
That was wonderful. It was really inspiring. Thank you all. May I please have our editor, Stina Joy, on stage to just present a thank you. Stina, may I ask you to present a token of appreciation to Ms. Sonia Sharma, Director of Human Resources, Hilton Mumbai International Airport. Ms. Vidhi Vikram, Group Director, the Vitz Kamath Group. Ms. Maitrey Luvalekar, Senior Instructor, IHM Mumbai. Debati Roy, founder of Image by Debati. She puts wonderful posts on LinkedIn. Please learn from her. And last but not the least, our wonderful moderator, Ms. Libana Penker, Senior Vice President of Human Resources at Arrive. Can we have a group photograph, please? If all of you could be on stage. Another interesting feature of the day is we have a book that we would like everybody in the audience to have. It's a book called Eliminating Her Way. And may I please welcome Ms. Agrawal to talk about the book. Just a brief introduction once this is done.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Janet Agarwal, currently working as CFO for Tiffin Fintech. When I began my career in hospitality with the Taj, I worked with Taj, Citrus Hotels, and also built the club Soho House in Juhu. So worked mainly with startup hotels later part of my career, but when I started with Taj, there was one thing that really struck me. So I'm from finance, but one thing I realized, dress well, That was my first lesson. You know, people in finance, you know, what they told me was when you walk into the hotel, they don't know you're from finance. They know you're from this hotel. That was the first lesson for me. The second one was open the door first for the guest, then you walk in. You know, as a finance person, this was all new for me. I used to feel, why do I need to open the door for the guest? So it taught me a lot of lessons on my way. You know, how do I deal with people when I meet guests? So guests first, then you. People first, then you. So I think it brought a different people aspect in my life. I also learned negotiating with people, dealing with so many cross functions, you know, and that actually taught me a lot of, you know, being very humble. So there wasn't like a number game, you know. There was one funny incident that happened with me. I worked with Mr. Raymond Bixon, Pankaj, you know, and Mr. Karambir Kang. The first instance was I went to the hotel and I was in charge of F&B control. And then I said, you don't have to do it this way. You should do it that way. So somebody commented on me, what do you know? You know, actually I realized when I went back, I felt really bad. And then I went back and I thought, actually, what do I know? I come from finance, right? I don't know anything. So the first 15 days, from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock, I would stand in the lobby. Stood in the restaurants. I went meeting housekeeping. I met the F&B controllers, met the managers, went to the stores. I tried to understand what are they facing before I say, do this. This is the number. You know, if I want to make a change in the hotel industry, I had to first learn what that industry is about. And that's when I could talk about, got friends with them, understood their problems, and then started my journey there. Post that, joining other industries where I worked in startups, creating hotels, working with a lot of big names, you know, building hotels, working with cross functions, seeing a hotel that's coming up and then say that, yes, my hands were in that hotel. You know, that's the journey, and that is what has been very flourishing for me in my career. That has taught me a long way. Even today when people talk, they say there's a very different approach that you follow compared to other finance people that we meet. You know, having said this, I have met Lakshmi, Dr. Lakshmi Todiwa. Shireen Batliwala has been one of my inspirations when I joined the F&B controls team. You know, I used to look at her like people would say that she's God. She has written something, follow that. You know, so having said all of this, I'm so privileged to be a part of this Indian Women in Hospitality by Dr. Lakshmi. She created a power league. And then I realized why probably she chose me to be the president for PR, Public Relations and Connect, because I learned it from hospitality. How do you connect? How do you keep the public relations? How do you maintain those relationships in your life? Now coming to this book, it's such a beautiful book, Illuminating Her Way. I would like to show this to you. Such a beautiful book of inspiring stories. So for all the youngsters, it's my earnest request, you must read each of them. You know, there are so many of them who have really climbed mountains, and you're going to get varied lessons from their lives, which will inspire you and motivate you to be in this hospitality phase. Also, I want to tell you that these inspirational women have also shown a lot of key traits for you to understand. Maybe too young for you to understand today, but at some day you will realize that they've been leaders, and what they have shown is resilience. The resilience to be in such an industry, such a specific industry, and how to live in this industry. So you're going to get those lessons in this. The second lesson that you're going to see is innovation. How these women have actually transformed. Hospitality is such an industry which keeps changing every day there's a demand, every day there's a new hotel, every day there's a new concept, and you're going to learn from that, you know. The third thing that I want you to see is the leadership. How do people survive in this industry? Like, talking to those wonderful women, and they were talking about work-life balance and have they sustained. The fourth thing that I want to tell you in this book that you're going to learn is empowering. You see one woman supporting the other woman and teaching the other, mentoring the other women, That is something so beautiful, which I have seen in IWH. Even during COVID, I have seen there have been so many initiatives that were taken to get back people to get jobs. So somewhere among these women, there was a lot of empathy among each other, empowerment that we created for each other, and then also having great buddies around, we became friends. So at the end of it, I know that that is some great learning for us and for you as youngsters to follow. Thank you.
Yeah, about Janet, thank you so much for introducing this book, because she is one lady, we hear woman of substance, she's one of them. The kind of thing that she has done, she's a CA, she has her own group, she's done stories, and she follows a lot of, she in fact supports a lot of charity. She was in Goa recently, supporting a charity. So that's the kind of thing that we would, really, this is the spirit that we would have, and that's why she was the right person to introduce the book. Definitely would like to have a picture with the book.
It will be easier to get down. It will be easier to get down. Okay. So we come to the end of the session. Thank you for being a very, very interactive audience. We have one interesting session coming up. That is a GM's Conclave. So we have 5 GMs from 5 different hotel brands coming here, and they'll be talking about hotels versus alternative accommodations coexisting in a competitive market. So we will start in 5 minutes. So in the meantime, you all can network and maybe take a washroom break. Thank you.